tried never seem to do anything for my dandruff.
This is a new one, and it worked for me.
The General was first shown on British TV in November 1967. It was written by Joshua Adam, a pseudonym for Louis Griefer, who had previously served with the RAF. Joshua and Adam were actually his sons' names.
That's why I went for the General. I went for the General because it was an aspect of life.
Louis had previously written sketches for the Goon shows and went on to devise the 70s panel show, Who Done It, with former Doctor Who and future Scarecrow, Jon Pertwee. I remember it well.
Welcome to Who Done It. You've just seen a murder committed in 1952, 25 years ago.
This episode regarding mind-altering education once again starred Colin Gordon as the new number 2, and technically should be viewed before the episode A, B and C. Patrick McGowan's The Prisoner stands as one of the most intellectually provocative television series ever created, a work that resists easy classification and demands active engagement from its audience. Among its 17 episodes, The General is an especially intriguing chapter, one that masterfully blends science fiction, social commentary, and philosophical depth, all wrapped up in the show's signature blend of paranoia and existential inquiry. To truly appreciate The General, one must examine its themes, its allegorical structure, and its relevance in both the original Cold War context and our modern era.
And the same thing happened even to me as an older age. I love history, but history lessons at school put me off history for at least 20 years.
We begin as ever in the village, a picturesque dystopia, the sort of place where authoritarianism comes with a chirpy smile and cameras hide behind the flower beds. Number 6 is enjoying his coffee as he spies the helicopter whirring ominously overhead. No doubt he's still hatching a plan where he could use that transport to get the hell out. The camera frames number 6 with the General's poster resembling Big Brother from 1984. The wording reads, "It can be done, trust me." Whenever someone says trust me, that always raises alarm bells. Number 6's eye is caught by a stranger staring over at him. John Castle plays the part of number 12. As mentioned in a previous review, I wouldn't start obsessing over most of the badge numbers, as throughout the series, certain numbers are used more than once. This was purely down to saving the props department from making new ones. And it's a good place here to mention that John Castle had played Geoffrey in the film The Lion in Winter. That neatly ties in with Jane Merrow's information to me that she'd been nominated for a Golden Globe for her role in the same film, an event that saw her move to Hollywood and take on many roles in both film and TV. Castle's other roles include Poirot, The Professionals, Tales of the Unexpected, Silent Witness, Casualty, Midsummer Murders, Spooks, and many, many more. A voice on the speaker system announces that the professor will be lecturing in 30 minutes, and for all studying the course to return to the dwellings.
This is an announcement from the General's Department. Will all students taking the 3-part history course please return to their dwellings immediately? The professor will be lecturing in approximately 30 minutes.
Everyone in the shot is looking at the loudspeaker, apart from number 6, who casually sips at his drink. Coffee is 2 credit units. How long will it be before we're subject to a credit system, defined by how good boys and girls we've been? Once cash is gone, governments will be able to force our spending on what they decree to be acceptable. You went on a protest? Well, denied the purchase of alcohol. You may have toilet rolls and a new jar of coffee. Whilst looking at a second poster reading, Speed Learn, a 3-year course in 3 minutes, number 12 strolls over and advises number 6 to enroll on the professor's course. This cog in the machine has number 6's attention, but not his trust.
It's improbable.
But not impossible.
Nothing's impossible in this place.
You should enroll number 6. You'll find the professor most interesting.
Really?
We see the professor being chased along the beach, and good old Peter Swanwick giving the
Orange alert.
We can assume the crowd chasing the professor don't want his autograph. Number 6 finds a transistor radio in the sand as it bursts into life with a message from the professor.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow villagers, students, this is the professor speaking. I have an urgent message for you.
As 2 villagers speed up to number 6 in a taxi, this scene was shot at MGM and not on the beach at Port Merion. And if I'm not mistaken, this minimote wasn't the main one used throughout, HLT 709C. This could be CFC 916C. The viewer can also see as the shot switches to Port Merion Beach that Magoon wasn't even sitting in the bike. We also see that one of the 2 villagers who is questioning number 6 is played by Michael Miller.
Great man, the professor. Treats lectures as though his life depended on it.
All right, let's go.
Prisoner fans will recognise him from a later episode, A Change of Mind, where he's been a naughty boy and needs a spot of confession for the soul. Believe me.
Believe me. Believe me. Believe me. Believe me. Believe me. Believe me. Believe me. Believe me. Believe me.
Number 6 is escorted back to his cell and finds the TV already on, pushing more propaganda regarding this speed learning course. It's here we first see the professor's wife, as played by Betty McDowell.
As you know, the huge success of this course has put an added strain upon him, and he's just now completing the notes for the second lecture and should be with us shortly.
Betty starred in many films and TV, including The First Men in the Moon and The Omen in '76. Her character informs the students that her housebound will be a little late due to the overwhelming amount of work he's having to fulfill. Well, I guess she couldn't say try to do a runner, then had the shit kicked out of him.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Professor. Your husband is now ready to complete the lecture.
Anyway, it's here we finally see the professor, as played by Peter Howell, championing this revolutionary course that can condense 3 years of study into just 3 minutes. It sounds like my revision plan from school.
A 3-year course indelibly impressed upon the mind in 3 minutes. Impossible?
Peter served in World War II, and after working with the Old Vic Company, he went on to appear in many theatre plays, TV shows, and as the governor in the cult film Scum.
However, I will have no violence in this institution. There is no violence here.
It was exciting, and you could see how it was that he could have the energy to write and direct and star in this extraordinary piece. And it's a quality which is very rare indeed.
Now, before we dismiss Speed Learn as mere science fiction, let's consider our own world's flirtation with accelerated learning and mass instruction. From the CIA MK Ultra program, subliminal messaging tapes in the 80s, to modern AI-driven teaching platforms. The quest for instant knowledge has long fascinated and sometimes deceived us. And let's not forget the more insidious forms of education, propaganda, state-controlled narratives. Unless we sound too conspiratorial, the kind of unquestioning acceptance of media-fed facts that would make even the most devoted speed learner look like a skeptic. The general, as we shall see, is less about education and more about obedience. And obedience in the village is a true lesson being taught.
A hard, complicated 6-month study. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, watch the screen. We're going to cover it in 15 seconds flat.
After being transfixed to the TV for 15 seconds, we see a puzzled look on number 6's face as he drops his drink. For the viewer, it's clear something's being transferred to his mind.
15 seconds flat. Students wishing supplementary information will please address their queries to the general.
It's here we see Colin Gordon again as the new number 2, as his lackey sweeps the room for the professor's lost tape recorder. I say lost, but we know the professor cast it aside as he was running from the madding crowd.
Are you still as keen as ever to leave us?
Any more questions?
I was thinking that a compromise could be arranged in exchange for the recorder.
I wonder who has it.
With no luck in his search, number 2 then quizzes number 6 on the professor's latest history lesson. Number 6, with no effort needed, reels off the correct answers, although he's not sure how.
When was the Treaty of Adrianople?
September 1829.
What happened 1830?
Greek independence was assured and guaranteed.
This should feel like a violation of one's mind, an unwarranted upload to the brain. Today, historical facts. Tomorrow, who knows? Imagine all children having information injected using this method. Now imagine all children being subjected into having government propaganda force-fed into their minds. Have a ponder over that as you watch TV or listen to the news.
What happened in 1830?
Greek independence was guaranteed.
By whom?
By Russia, France, and Britain.
Our hero, of course, is sceptical. When he quizzes a fellow villager about the content of a history lesson, he discovers that people can recite information flawlessly, but they don't actually understand it. The knowledge is there, but the critical thought is missing, like memorizing a book in a language you don't speak.
Who was Frederick of Augustenburg?
Bismarck's ally against the Danes under Prince Christian of Glücksburg. Frederick, like the Bundestag, had never adopted the Treaty of London in 1852.
He didn't raise too much rumpus, but Pat actually thought that was exactly what the series should be around, in that sort of slightly, mysterioso area.
On returning to the beach to find the radio, number 6 has been followed by number 12, and in a terse conversation, 12 points out a salient flaw with the SpeedLearn program. When questioned, number 6's mind recognises the words treaty and Adrianople and instantly fires back the answer to when rather than what.
What was the Treaty of Adrianople?
September 1829.
Wrong. I said what, not when.
Number 6 listens intently to the professor's recording and learns well. Speed learning is slavery, and the general must be destroyed.
You are being tricked. SpeedLearn is an abomination. It is slavery.
We see the villagers happily testing each other's memory, in line of the forthcoming exams. Number 2 speaks with number 1, while standing in front of his Masonic chair. The top part of the triangle points up to the giant circle, sporting the penny farthing symbol. Is this a message? Keep an eye on mankind's progress. Number 2's evidently not happy with the boss as he sips on his milk.
Probably the most important human experiment we've ever had to conduct. It's treated like a military exercise.
It's not quite clear at this point whether number 12 is there to help or hinder, as his suggestions regarding the professor are cast aside by his plenipotentiary. The professor himself is now being carefully monitored, overworked, and more than likely having the odd liquid cosh to stop him from jogging on beaches.
You mustn't overdo it. All right, nurse.
I have to finish these notes.
Yes, of course you do, and after a little rest and some mild therapy.
Panning away from the professor's wife, we can cast our eye over the villagers who are, let's say, expressing their artistic bent. The music box music suggests a gentle-like innocence permeating the recreation garden. We see number 6's artwork being a lifelike charcoal, then raising his hand to draw attention like a schoolboy in class. There's no doubt number 6 is on a recce mission for answers. His answers to her questions are direct observations, seeing things as they really are, whilst the professor's wife gently challenges his perception.
He's asleep. One learns only when the mind wants to, not at set times.
Is that what your husband believes?
The conversation turns sour when the professor's wife sees number 6's artwork, depicting her as a general. She now knows he's cognizant of the general, and with further questions regarding the professor, she shuts down the conversation by ripping up 6's artwork. Reminds me of a teacher we had.
Creation out of destruction.
Number 6 then goes for a rummage around the professor's ornate dwelling and is interrupted by the somewhat nervous wife of the professor. Number 2 tells her not to worry as he and number 6 are old friends. As this episode should have been shown before A, B and C, this statement likely means that they've known each other outside of the village.
Number 6 and I are old friends. I can recommend him as a thoroughly zealous student, with a tendency to overdo it.
And then when it came to the actual take, he did it very, very hard indeed. And I think what he was saying was rather typical of him, really, that he didn't want to frighten me, but he had total control. He was absolutely certain he could do it hard without it catching my ear. And so he put my mind at rest and then did it, but pretty close to the ear.
With a bash to the head of the effigy laying in bed, number 6 is getting closer to the true machinations of this so-called speed learning, and cares not that number 2 knows. Good job he was sure it wasn't human. As there seems to be a carnival atmosphere in the village, with residents happily being quizzed on the speed-learnt historical knowledge, number 12 looks on dispassionately. Has number 6 actually found an ally? Once back at home, we can see the lampshade gently swaying as though someone's tampered with the electrics. The electrician who comes to fix the lamp is Norman Mitchell. He first met McGowan when they were living in Sheffield and performing in the Sheffield Rep. He'd also served 6 years in the Royal Army Medical Corps during World War II. Work after The Prisoner includes the Carry On films, Oliver, The Pink Panther, The Likely Lads, Emmerdale and The Last of the Summer Wine. A perennial favourite, and it'd take me half an hour to list everything else. With the electrician distracted, number 12 gives number 6 an opportunity to broadcast the professor's original message, detailing how speed learning is an abomination.
We have about 15 seconds. The professor's real lecture, the one you heard on the tape recorder. Would you like it to go out?
I might.
Although he's been given the device to facilitate such measures, number 6 still, and naturally, has the look of mistrust on his face, a sort of I'll believe it when I see it. At the town hall, the officials enter the building decked in black suits and top hats, each putting their security pass into the black box.
Proceed to pass. Pass.
These coin box banks have been around for a few years prior to The Prisoner's filming, and Patrick McGowan obviously found them amusing enough to take place of something more sophisticated. I remember these coin banks, and here is one made in the 60s.
But you don't say that to the governor. He's brought something in, you know he likes it, you know he wants to use it, you say, well done, sir.
It seems number 6 either dropped lucky with a dress code, or number 12 managed to give him some more information about entry that the viewer wasn't privy to. As number 6 sneaks around to find the projection room, number 2 and 12 deliver their findings to the assembly regarding the benefits of SpeedLearn.
SpeedLearn is the outcome of the general's prolific knowledge. Its basis is the student's confidence in a tried and trusted professor.
Outwitting the guards in an almost comical way for the prisoner, number 6 gains access to the projection room, where the lab tech is busy inserting the micro into the projection machine.
All clear. Standing by.
All operatives clear?
Cutting back to the courtroom, we hear number 12 stating it is imposed directly onto the cortex of the brain, and with occasional boosts, it's virtually indelible. Sounds like something we heard a couple of years ago. Number 6 manages to swap the micro for the one he had hidden, and I'm a little surprised they showed that amount of blood on 60s TV. It's also more clear now, given number 12's lack in freezing the camera feed, that he may have an ally after all, a rare thing in the village.
Telecine? Hold that picture.
What picture, sir?
Projection. Closer. Closer.
With number 2 onto them, and the plot foiled, number 12 is given the honour of interrogating number 6, albeit in a half-arsed manner. Number 2 has a nonchalant tone in his words, as he knows number 6 won't betray any of his co-conspirators.
Who's the head of the organization? You'd be wise to tell us.
He won't tell you anything. He's a trained conspirator, a very hard man.
As he's speaking on the phone to the professor's wife, we can make out both her and her husband were brought into the village under false pretense, an organization using a friendly-faced professor to further their insidious plans. Sounds familiar to me.
You're pleased?
Yes.
Then may I see him?
Of course. As soon as he's completed the first phase of the next installment. He's performing so well, it seems a pity to disturb him now.
I like the line from number 2 here. Rebels must be kept under the closest surveillance. On arriving in the professor's office, we see wall-to-wall literature, including Plato, Aristotle, and Voltaire, like modern AI systems. It seems all history and philosophy has been programmed into the general.
Plato, Aristotle, Voltaire, Rousseau, and the rest. They're all here, all available to the general.
Number 6 is finally introduced to the professor's supercomputer, as number 2 praises its revolutionary capabilities, subliminally learned, checked, and corrected by an infallible authority. And what have we got?
And what have we got?
A row of cabbages.
Indeed. Knowledgeable cabbages.
Make note of what's being delivered here in the dialogue, and we can draw parallels with today's world. Prisoner, what sort of knowledge? Number 2, for the time being, past history will have to do, but shortly we'll be making our own. As number 2 is tightening the screws on number 12, number 6 sees this and interjects with a request for this all-knowing behemoth they call the General. Apparently, he has a question the General can't answer.
A question that can't be answered.
What's that?
There is a question that the General cannot answer.
Impossible.
Allow me to ask it.
No.
After cautiously being allowed to act out on his request, number 6 passes the code on the strip to the professor, who then feeds it into the computer. Sadly, the professor is electrocuted, and during the punch-up, number 12 adds to the death count as he tries to pull the professor away from the machine. The final scene shows the thoroughly distraught number 2 holding a burnt and crumpled strip of code, as he angrily wants to know the question that has demolished his grand plan and no doubt promotion prospects.
It's insoluble for man or machine.
What was it?
WHY.
The General may be fiction, but its message remains eerily relevant. Whether it's mass indoctrination, the dangers of blind faith in technology, or the ever-present threat of authoritarian control dressed as progress. This episode serves as a timely warning, so the next time you see a miraculous learning method, a government initiative promising to streamline your thinking, or a headline that seems too convenient, pause. Ask yourself the question that broke the General. Why?
Why?
It was tremendously well organized, and we all knew each other so well that thoughts were transmitted, at 100 yards distance, and you didn't have to go into an hour's explanation of something that was a split-second decision. Let's do that, and he said, "You mean this?" and he's done it, and that happened constantly. There was no waste time, so that there was always this sort of slightly. Everyone was on the toes. So maybe if it did, it certainly wasn't made up as we went along. It was very, very carefully prepared and rehearsed, and no words were changed. It was exactly the same as it was written. They all were.
McGowan's work is never just about the immediate drama of its narrative. The General is an exploration of epistemology, the nature of knowledge itself, and how information, when stripped of genuine understanding, can become a tool of oppression. The episode directly critiques the industrialization of education, a process that had already begun in the 1960s, but has accelerated exponentially in the digital age.
The only subject that I'm interested in is getting away from this place.
Exactly.
Who are you?
A cog in the machine.
Speedlearn, with its instantaneous indoctrination, echoes real-world concerns about propaganda, ideological conditioning, and the illusion of learning without critical thought. By removing inquiry and skepticism, the village's rulers render their subjects passive, vessels for pre-approved doctrine, rather than independent thinkers.
But that education was ready for a giant leap forward from the Dark Ages into the 20th and 21st centuries.
Number 6 is simple yet devastating question. Why? Is the one query that no authoritarian system can afford to answer honestly. It demands justification, and when none is forthcoming, the entire edifice collapses. The general leaves us with a resounding message. The most dangerous form of control is not the physical imprisonment of the body, but the intellectual imprisonment of the mind. Number 6's act of rebellion is not just about resisting a system, it's about affirming the fundamental right to question, to doubt, and to seek truth on one's own terms. The battle between freedom and control, between knowledge and indoctrination, did not end with the prisoner. It's a battle that persists in every generation, in every society that must grapple with the tension between authority and autonomy. McGowan, through the general, offers not just a warning but a challenge to resist the seductive ease of prepackaged knowledge, to reject the hollow certainty of imposed truths, and to always ask, why?
The professor and I have certain privileges.
As prisoners or as warders?
We came here voluntarily.
In an age increasingly dominated by machine learning and artificial intelligence, the general feels eerily prophetic. The idea of a computer that can dictate truth, that can dispense knowledge without nuance or doubt, parallels the modern phenomenon of algorithmic information control. Today, we witness a world where AI curates our news feeds, where data-driven knowledge is accepted uncritically, and where the very structure of inquiry is shaped by unseen forces. Dodgy programmers make for dodgy information, and who will be held accountable should AI's information prove pernicious? McGowan's episode warns against the dangers of reducing knowledge to mere data points. The moment learning ceases to be an active questioning process, it ceases to be learning at all. The village, with its illusion of enlightenment, mirrors the way in which contemporary societies often mistake access to information for true wisdom. We can all look, but who truly observes?
Good night to you all. Sweet